what I'm talking about today is really kind of like knowing what your customers really want to hear, what your buyers really want to hear, and really having an understanding of your perspective or the buyer's perspective. So in this live session, I really want to kind of go through that. So make sure that you watch this recording either on YouTube or on my Facebook page, or you can check it out on Monday in the blog. In the blog, I always add more information. So for people that don't already know me, my name is Janice B. Gordon, aka the Problem Solver. What I do is I help companies to grow one customer at a time, because each individual customer is really, really important. And I've demonstrated that a lot with the clients that I have worked with. One client alone, I helped them to grow their business by 6 million in less than a year. And that's really using the strategies that I use with you here today and on all of the live trainings that I do. Really simple strategies. I try and break it down to make it really easy for you, because I know that you've got a lot going on in your life. But the problem is, if you don't know about these tricks and tools and real shortcuts or just new ways of thinking, if you don't know about it, then you won't use it. And that's what I aim to do today. So please do kind of post your comments and share this. I really do love it when you share content, and especially when you leave comments as well. I always go in after I've posted the recording and even just to say hello and let me know where you are listening to this, where in the world you are, is absolutely great. But let me kind of launch into this live training. So we're talking about knowing what your customer really, really, really wants. And, today, in today's world, with the fastly changing economies and downsizing, companies are growing lean and they're starting lean, which means that people are having to multitask, which means that all employees, including the decision makers in the business, have to wear many hats. And so they're time starved. They're often have limited budgets and time to actually develop the insight and real thinking that's required. But there are, I've talked about, ways of actually finding out information. There are ways of actually doing it. But it's important to know not to spend time on the things that are not important to your customer. And the shortcut is actually spending time on the things that are really important to your customer, the things that gets them to engage with you, the things that help you to develop the relationship. So that's really what I'm talking about here. So, many salespeople that I work with and talk to very much come from their own perspective, whether it's a business owner that's selling their products, their services, even themselves, or whether it's, the salespeople or all people within the company really have their own perspective. And it's quite difficult to have the perspective of your buyer and your customer or your wider stakeholders as well, which is really important. And so, just thinking about what they want to hear from you, what they want to see, saves you a lot of time. But it's really about understanding the process that your buyers go through to understand what bit you can really add value into the conversation. Excuse me, choke there. So, the environment we're in is everybody is time starved. So it's about understanding at what point the buyer engages with you. And so, like the businesses are here to perform, and without your customers, you don't get the performance that you really, really want. And so, customers want you to provide a level of insight into their business. They want you to show them what they don't already know. Really, there's no point giving them what they do know. And actually, customers, buyers nowadays know so much. They have information overload. It's so easy to get access to information nowadays, that, you know, if you then, your starting point is giving people information that is easily retrievable and that they've already got, then you're disengaging them, and that may be the start of your relationship, and so you're not going to go very far. So it's really important to understand at what point the buyer contacts you or will receive your call or your message, or it starts to engage with you, to make sure that you're not starting at point A where actually they're already at point Z and they only want to, you know, negotiate with you. So it's really about understanding the way that the buying cycle has actually changed. You know, nowadays, people that are wanting to buy from you, have already done 70% of the research. They've already dismissed people that they feel are not appropriate to their particular need. The buyer has an understanding of their need. They don't necessarily have a wider understanding of the whole market. And this is where you can come in. This is where you can really add value. So often what happens is salespeople will go in and they will start selling. You know, they may or may not have much of a relationship, but they're in on it, really, not knowing that actually the customer has already done, or the buyer has already done all of that work. You know, they don't want to hear about the features and benefits. They don't really want to know about the history of the company. They're not interested in that. It's really what's in it for them, what they're interested in, and what their particular needs may be. All buyers are looking for is really for you to share information. And if you kind of think selling nowadays is really sharing, you know, and you can take the sell, so you don't need to be gung-ho and get in there, take the sell out of it and really think about it really stands for sharing insight, sharing knowledge, sharing market information, sharing things that the customer doesn't always know. Salespeople selling is often going in with what the customer already knows, because they can read your website, they can get hold of the brochures, they go to conferences where they get lots of information. They've already got an awareness of what's available to them. They've got experience of what they've had before, and they're always doing those comparisons. So to go in there and sell is not what they're wanting to hear from you. That's not what they want. What they do want are things that they are more difficult for them to access. The detail of the environment, or, you know, information, new information from probably different sectors that you can bring to the table because of your connections, or even just your connections as well. So it's really about understanding what the customer wants. People who do become real trusted advisors are not salespeople. They are people that really think about the customer's need and really understands the things that their customer hasn't got that they can provide. And in this way, they're really adding value. And the customer, the buyer, really engages with those insights, really sees the value in that person, that extra person within their business, and they become a trusted advisor because they begin to rely on them for those nuggets of gold, those real insights of information. And so it's really, really important for you to understand that you're providing this level of insight, and so you need to make it personally and professionally enable them to be more effective in their business. So think about what other things will make them more effective in their business. And so this is really a whole company approach. And the reason why it's a whole company approach is because, you know, if they're looking for industry insights and technological trends and upcoming regulation changes, and, you know, other developments that will affect them, the customer, the buyer, the business, then really they need to make sure you need, within your company, the whole company, is that all of your aspects of your company is actually able to research that information and share that information to the relevant people, whether it's front end customer facing people, or whether it's the salespeople. It's important that the company is really on it in terms of what they're providing the customer, and then people can teach their customers and provide insight. Will always get faster responses from the customers, because the buyer really values that. So this is a whole company process, because the whole company has to be engaged in not relying on just the features and benefits, but really be engaged in the customer, what the customer wants from you. So it's not just about salespeople going in and selling. It's about the whole company understanding the part they play in the sales process. And that is in terms of being responsive, building the relationship. Even the customer facing people really understand the part they play. The salesperson is really about building the relationship and giving the insight and educating, or the technological trends, or the market value. That's the thing that the whole company needs to be engaged with, the part they play in the process, rather than a department selling. Customers do not care. They really do not care what sets you apart in terms of the company. They don't care. What they care about is what sets them apart, and what part you play in setting them apart from everyone else. So can you give them information that other people haven't got? Can you show them things that they don't already know? So you're helping them to set themselves apart from everyone else. You're helping them to create competitive edge or an advantage over other people, because you really understand the needs that they have. And so it's really about the information you give is personalized to that unique buyer, that unique customer, that unique influencer. It's really important that you personalize it to where they're at and the piece of information they want. The example I gave you at the beginning of the company that I helped them to grow by 6 million was really, that was about getting them to understand that different a customer, a decision-making unit, a customer, a business-to-business customer. So they will have different departments. So you'll have the finance department, the research department, the buying department, the user department, the whatever departments you may deal with in order to sell your product or service. But what they were doing is they were selling the same script to all of those people, and not really understanding all those people have completely different needs and completely different motivations and completely different perspective. And so it was really about tailoring the insight or the education, whatever it is that particular stakeholder within that business needs. It was about tailoring it to their needs. So you would change the script all the time and that's because you would go in, you would ask questions. What do they need in order to move it on? And the data that you collect from that customer, whether it's you collect it from the customer facing staff or the finance department that's dealing with their finance department, you're collecting data all the time. It's about a whole company approach in that information is filtered down to the right people so that they can tailor the pitch when they go back in to make sure that they're meeting the needs. When you're talking business to business, that it gets to a point where it's probably 90% of the sale is done, but you can lose it on that 10% because you don't understand the environment that the customer is. Though you don't understand the customer that you're dealing with, that's what you don't understand. And so by really changing the way that you disseminate information and gather information, department by department of the customer, you begin to understand what their needs are and what information you're going to give them. I hope that makes sense, because this was really important in them actually getting that extra 10% and securing the deal. And this was a deal over 4 years. So, it was worth an awful lot to them. So just be clear what it was. What worked really well there was having an understanding that when you're dealing with a customer, isn't one customer within a business to business environment. You're dealing with several customers within the company, and your pitch needs to be different, and understanding what their needs are, what their perspective is, understanding that the information that you gather on them needs to disseminate down to the relevant people that will change the way that they go in and communicate and talk to and pitch to and provide information and education and insight to that person. It's going to be different across all of the different departments that you deal with. Even if you're a small business dealing with a large business, it's exactly the same. It's really about understanding that you're dealing with individuals. Business to business is still people to people, and all those people within a company isn't maybe one company, but they're different people and they have different motivations. So, you know, we all love to talk about ourselves. We do, and they're no different. The people that you deal with love to talk about themselves, absolutely love to talk about themselves. So what you need to do is, you know, treat them as individuals, and you humanize the relationship as well, because you're an individual, you have a personality, and it's really about people to people. That's what we're talking about. That's what you need to do. You need to make sure that you deliver the information, the insight, the technological information in a way that they will be able to receive it. So, you know, some people are more analytical, some people are more big picture, some people are, you know, like, you know, are colourful people and they like descriptive words. So even if you're using the same script, you're going to deliver it in a different way as well. So it's really about understanding the personality in front of you that you're dealing with in order to get the engagement. And really, when you're able to engage on a one-to-one basis in a department with an individual in a company, it's fantastic. There's a real skill to it, but it's about understanding that's what you need to do. I mean, that's the first thing, is understanding when we're talking company to company, we're talking individual to individual, personality to personality, and how you do that. You know, I when I do training, I go into way more detail about that, which is great fun as well, kind of setting up these scenarios. But I really want you to get that you are talking to a personality, so it's about understanding who the personality is, so you can get engagement, because we love to talk about ourselves, but we love to talk to people that we can relate to as well, and that's the important thing. So if you're talking analytical to analytical, then they, you know, they're going to engage with you. If you're talking big picture, they're going to engage with you. So it's not just the content of what you say, it's also the way that you say it as well. So, you know, this is I find this a really interesting subject, and I really do enjoy doing training along these lines as well. But I just wanted to give you a highlight so that you can really understand, you know, like what buyers want to hear, what they want to hear from you in the way that you deliver the information, what's important to them. Customers want to know why the information is relevant to them as well, because we know it's relevant, but they don't always see that as well. It's like going into a blank room and then talking about, you know, the way it's going to look. Some people can see it, but a lot of people can't. And so you've got to help them along that journey to really kind of get them to see what this other industry is doing, how that relates to you, your industry, your company, your customer. You're doing a better job, you know, how that relates to them. You need to really break it down. So when you do bring pots of gold, don't just plank it there and think, oh, that's wonderful, because they're thinking, what am I going to do with this? You know, so you've really got to break it down to them. It's really important to go that bit further in the way that you communicate with the buyers and the customers. So it's really, really important to do that. But you must also adapt the standard way that you prospect as well, because we are all unique and different. And so you really do have to adapt your prospecting in order to build the relationship, and throw a few things out. And if they pick them up, then you know that is them. So, there are ways of actually doing that on LinkedIn in the communication that you send out. If you sent out 4 pieces of content and they all had different styles, one was more analytical, one was, kind of more storytelling, they go, depending on which one of those they respond to, gives you a lot of information. So there are lots of strategies that, I have used in the past to actually help companies to understand that the same information can be delivered in different ways. And the reason why you do that is all in order to find out more about the people that would respond to that information, why they respond to it. Buyers have already done 60 to 70% of the work before they will accept your call. It's easy for them to find out information about your company, your products, and your service. So it's really about understanding there's no point going in selling about your company, your products, and your service when they accept your call. Because if they know who you are, your company, it's because they've already done some research. And all you need to do is just qualify that they have done some research, that you're both on the same page. But what salespeople often do is they launch straight into the selling script, and then that turns off the buyers, the influencers, the people that you're speaking to. So it's really, really important that you create a concise list of top candidates. They create a concise list of top candidates. And so when you know that you're on that list, you know that you've gotten through that 60, 70% of filtering. And because you've got to that stage, you really just need to do the extra 20% to get to the last 10%. And that's really what it is. It's about understanding they've already done half of the work for you. So the bit that they want to hear from you is the unique difference that they can make by working for you. I hope you get that. And so they've already collected all that basic information. So don't give it to them again, because they feel that you're talking to them like an idiot. So when they finally accept the call, they don't really want to hear your sales pitch, right? They don't want to hear that. So I'm talking about what they do want to hear. So that's really what they don't want to hear. The only thing that's left to discuss is really the things that are negotiable, and that is, around the price and, what are the kind of like the non-negotiable bits of the relationship and what bits are negotiables. So, trust me, if they could do without you for the last 30%, they would absolutely do without you, but they can't. So what I really want you to focus on here are the things that the customer really wants to see from you. I don't know if you've read the book, The Challenger Sale, which is a brilliant book, and I'd highly advise you to read that. But Matt Dixon and his team are in corporate executive board that, were involved in researching that book. The corporate executive board is now part of Gartner's research. But they asked the buyers how loyal they were to the supplier they chose. And it was really interesting what they said. They said today's buyers expect a specific kind of sales experience. Experience is in there. It requires a sales conversation that the representative provides a unique and valuable perspective. So the last bit, so they've already done 70% of the work. They don't want to know your sales pitch. What they want is the unique, valuable perspective that you as a sales representative, your sales experience, your world experience, your perspective. They want the unique bit, the unique value that you can add. The rep helps the customer to navigate through alternative landmines, right? Because they're overdosed with the amount of information that's out there, really. They've done 70% of the work and they need your help to do the last 30%. So it's really about having a mutually engaging relationship, really. what the buyer wants is for you to help them save them money, to make money, to avoid risk, to engage with their employees, to engage with their customers, to steal more market share. That's essentially what they're looking for you to help them do in that last 30%. So what you need to do is you need to demonstrate you can do this. So how do you do this? Because that's what they really want to hear from you. How do you actually do that? What you do is, like, customers want to hear, they want to hear that you have a solution for their problem. So it's about clearly defining their problem. And I talked about that in last week's, how you go about clearly defining the problem. They want to know that your solution is going to work for them. They kind of think your solution is going to work because that's in the 70% research, but they want reassurance. And how do they get reassurance? They want to know who else you've worked for and what you did for them and what the experience was. At the top of this, remember I said, I worked with a company and I helped them to grow by 6 million. That's my experience, by one customer at a time, by using these very strategies about defining the problem. Last week I gave you lots of information about the solution finding process. Before that I talked about agile. All of these things I've done with my customers, and this is the information I'm giving you today. So you need to do it with your customers. That extra 30% is really about the unique difference that you can make, the added value. They also want to know, that, what they want to know your how you can satisfy their personal and professional needs. They really want to know how you can personalize it to them, to their particular need. So you've really got to understand what their particular need is. They want to hear about how you are going to help them to really develop and grow their business. So you need to understand their business inside out. They want to hear from you as a human, not as a robot. And I've talked about this, earlier, about it's people to people. They want to hear what's the return on investment, because they need to answer to their shareholders as well. So it's really important for them to hear about that, how this is really going to hit their bottom line. They want to hear about how other people have benefited from this. But you remember that they've got a unique difference. So they don't want to be considered like everyone else. They are unique and special. They want to feel unique and special. They want to feel that you're doing something that isn't vanilla, that's unique and special to them. So you need to communicate that. So what is the unique idea? The thing that they couldn't hear from anyone else, because you have a relationship with them as a trusted advisor. So that what you need to bring to the table is something they haven't heard from anyone else, and they're not going to hear from anyone else. And that's how you can continue the relationship with them, to build a relationship as a trusted advisor and drive a loyalty into that relationship. Customers want to think differently. They want to say, I haven't thought about that before. I haven't heard that before. Well, that's interesting. You want to draw them in with something that they hadn't considered before. And this is why leveraging experiences from other industries, new technologies, is really one way that you can really help to develop the relationship, by actually getting them to see things in a different way, to learn about a new technology that they could leverage in their own business. And finally, they want an intellectually engaged conversation with you. They want to learn more. So it's down to you to educate them as well. It's really important to think about how you can do that. So, that's it for today. I hope you found that really useful. I hope I've got you to think, I didn't think about it in that way. I'd really love to hear from you. So please do comment below on this Facebook Live. Please do comment below on the YouTube channel when I post it. I always go in and answer your comments. So what we've been talking about today is really knowing what your customer wants, seeing things from their perspective, thinking about that they've already done 60-70% of the research, so don't go in there and pitch. What you've got to provide is what's the unique value added difference. And that is in new technology, understanding new regulation, what's unique idea, leveraging things from other industries, what